What is up, my friends? Chrissy Chin here, registered nurse turned serial entrepreneur, and I am here to help you stand out in this noisy world. Identify who you are and who you're talking to so you can crush it in your business. Today, we are talking to the wonderful Hannah Stevens. She is passionate, upbeat. She's fun 27-year-old who loves Jesus, Young Living, CrossFit, and all things sports. And in that exact order, do not mess it up. Jesus first, right? She started a sports podcast called The Hannah Stevens Show. She owns her own Young Living business and is a sports analyst contributor for the USA Today Sports. All right, Hannah, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited that you're here today, and it's going to be a chatty podcast. We're both pretty chatty.
I feel like we have a history of having really good, fun conversations, so I'm excited for this.
We do. We always end up having to do like an after show because our shows go so long.
We did get this, you know, it's, I feel like that was probably the prime of the last video was like after the meat of it, it was like dessert. Like people loved it.
Yes. So, you know, we'll try and keep this one to a minimal amount of time. And if not, we'll break it into two and we'll do the after show with Hannah and Chrissy.
It'll be fun.
Perfect.
So
today we're going to talk about broadening your network of people, because when we're in business, we need to meet more people. It's a numbers game. I don't care if you're in network marketing or if you own a small business and you're building online, you need an audience of people, you need customers. It's a numbers game. And so I want to talk to you about you're good at this. You're so good at relationships. You are so good at, I know you're so passionate about a lot of things, and that's kind of one of your strong suits is using your passions to connect with people. So I want the scoop, the whole scoop.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that it's important that you automatically connect relationships with people. Like, I think it's something that it's so elementary that when we were kids, we were learned like, you know, you make friends by becoming friends. You make friends by being a friend. And we kind of, as we get older, like we forget that in context in our business. We're after a goal rather than people's hearts. And I think that's something that I've had to learn as I've gotten older. It's about making connections with someone. Like people don't want to know how something works. They want to know how it helps you. You know, people don't really care about, you know, knowing all the little tidbits about stuff. They just want to see a story. They want to see your testimony. And so as I've gotten older and I've realized that, it's helped me to make relationships. And, you know, in my life, I've been, I call myself a quirky person. I have some quirks that people know about. Like I used to be terrified to fly. I don't usually eat with my hands. Like I try to use like silverware. I don't like my hands, you know, they're clean, but you never know. I've been one to always look at the food grade when we go, you know, the sanitation grade when you go into a restaurant to see what it, you know, see what it is. But at the same time, it's like, I've always felt like I've been a genuine person. And so I think that's helped me in life is people, like I say all the time, what you see is what you get, take it or leave it. And so people know, when people know who you truly are, I think they respect you. So on that end of making relationships, that's been game changer for me. Even getting started and making my own podcast and making my own brand was being authentic, being genuine, but also being consistent. And when you have those three together, it can really make something beautiful.
Yeah. So I would say definitely something to master in the beginning is mastering who you are. And that can be uncomfortable and it can be a process and a journey, right? Figuring out I'm just tapping into figuring out like who I am and letting myself shine through. And I've gotten a lot more comments on like DMs and stuff, and people are like, your personality is really coming out, you know, with, you know, branding yourself as Chrissy Chin and doing this podcast. And I'm just kind of letting myself go and letting my guard down and not worrying about being embarrassed or saying something stupid or, you know, and that's, I think that really has and not worrying about who's going to be turned off by it. Yeah. Right. Because like, Hannah, I'm sure there are people out there like, you're not their cup of tea. Right.
Yeah,
and
not even their cup of coffee.
Same for me. Right. But then there's people out there, they just love your energy. They love, you know, everything you have to offer, everything you have to say, and they're your super fans. And that's, you know, and I've talked about this before on the podcast with other people, that's what you want. As your super fan. So yes, the groundwork of starting, being honest, being authentic, figuring out who you are, and it's okay to start the process, even if you don't exactly know who you are and where, you know, how you want to show up.
Exactly.
but then getting to know other people and broadening that network. So how do you find new people to connect with? Because you've got a podcast, you've got a network marketing business. So you are having to find people for different aspects of your life, different businesses.
Yeah.
And so how are you doing that?
Yeah. So going off what you said first, I think is important is I've had to really stop going after people who I know I'm not their cup of tea. Like I was so consumed when I was younger of like people's approval and kind of being obsessed with them liking me. And I remember I was like trying to change who I was depending on the group of people, just so people would like me. And I'm like, at the end of that, I was losing myself because I was so consumed with people who, and literally, I think it's funny, the people who I cared so much about approval then, I don't even remember their names now. Like, obviously, it was not that important to go after them. So when you embrace your community, you embrace the people who love you and who support you and encourage you, then that's when you're going to, I think, be most successful within your business. And so what I've done, and it's kind of funny because I have a network marketing business. I also have a sports podcast, but I also just started writing for USA Today, covering Alabama football for Roll Tide Wire. And the reason I got that job was because I networked. And I went after a bunch of people and said, hey, listen, like I'm looking to get in because I've obviously done radio, I've done TV, I have a podcast. I wanted to be writing again. I just felt an urge to write. And I was reaching out. I'm like, listen, here's my resume. Here's a bunch of articles because I've always been one to just go after every opportunity as possible. Like I very rarely say no because I just want the experience. I feel like the more experience you have, the more equipped and more professional you're going to be. And so there's a saying that CEOs, a lot of times, like the people who work the hardest have had every job before CEO. Like they know there was one guy on Shark Tank who started as a janitor.
Favorite
and
show,
worked his
by
way
the
up.
way.
Yes, it's so good. And so he started on his business because he knew by doing every position, he knew how things worked. And so for me, I reached out and I was like, listen, I know, and I sell myself well. I like to think that's this thing. I was like, listen, I'm a female who knows sports, who can analyze, and who can bring amazing content. Give me a chance, I'll change your business. Well, so far in the last 2 weeks, I've written 2 articles that have gone viral, and we've had over 1 million views on Saturday on our website.
Oh my gosh,
so
congrats.
They were like, okay, thank you. They're like, oh, awesome. So going off of that is you can't be afraid of people saying no. Like I used to be operated from like, they're going to say no. Like that's the worst they can say is no. Like I've got Nick Saban on my show because I wasn't afraid to ask. Mm-hmm. What's the worst they're going to say? No. Okay, that's fine. I can work with a no. And so when you realize that, yeah, you may be denied, that's fine. You keep going. And so I've reached out to people on different podcasts and sports podcasts and not even just sports because I realized I didn't want to just have such a narrow idea. So whether it's an entrepreneurial podcast or maybe it's even a female, other women podcasts, kind of joining that network. And then even men. And so I actually had 2 guys approach me a couple of months ago, say, hey, we would love to have you on our show every Wednesday. You're going to be our college football analyst. Would you be interested? I'm like, absolutely. So the last few Wednesdays, I've been driving 4 hours back and forth each way to go on a podcast on Wednesday nights to be a part of their program. And because that, it gives me exposure, it gives them exposure, and it's a win-win. So I think first off, being willing to put yourself out there and to be willing to put in the hard work, but also just kind of like realize that you have something to offer. It's not just about getting something. It's not just saying, hey, I want you on my show because you're awesome. But it's like, hey, why don't we work together? You come on my show, you can support your brand, you can promote yourself, but also I can give you some good content too. Because I think oftentimes we sell ourselves short. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one thing that I really picked out of there is not just reaching out to someone and saying like, hey, let's collab, or let's, can I be on your podcast, or can I write for you? You told them exactly the value that you were going to bring. You were like, look, this is what I bring to the table. This is what I'm good at. This is where I can add value. And I'd love to work with you. And that is so important because people get messages all the time, especially if you're trying to connect with someone who is popular already. They get messages all the time and they don't know who you are. And that's not a bad thing. But they need to know what you bring to the table so that they can then take that further and not just do the easy, no thanks. So I think that's super important.
I don't know who you are.
Right. I think that's super important. And it's exactly what you did. You shared that value and that's how you got them to say yes. So I think that's super important.
If you sell yourself short, then they're not interested. And as selfish as it is, like people are interested in themselves and that's just how it is. And I wish it wasn't that way and I try not to be that way, but a lot of people want to know, like if you went to a business and getting sponsors. Like I get sponsors for my podcast. I go in that saying this is what you'll benefit from, not what you're going to do for me, but what I can do for you. Because people at the end of the day want to make money and they want to get revenue. Like they want to see that they're pouring into your podcast is they're getting a benefit from that. They're getting money back. They're getting views, whatever it may be. And so I think another thing is being flexible with people. So some companies that you get sponsors or work with in network marketing, they may want revenue. They may want views on their website, whatever it may be. You help them, like that's their niche, right? And so you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to say, hey, like I there's been times where I didn't know what I was doing. Like there was one guy, he's like, I want you to do this type of Google ad. And I didn't want to say I didn't know what that was. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll come back tomorrow with a proposal. So I went home that night and researched, okay, how do I do this? How do I do it on Facebook? How do I match it up with Google Drive? All the stuff he wanted, and I made it work. And he was like, wow, okay, cool. Like, let's do it. But don't say you don't know how to do something, or don't say I don't want to, or don't say I'm not willing. Be willing to put in the effort, because that it's all about relationships. At the end of the day, like I want my sponsors and, people in my network marketing business to feel like I'm a real person and that we're friends and it's a relationship. It's not just business. So you have to kind of put them hand in hand, because people, they want them to have revenue, but they also want a relationship. And I think both of them are important in business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And regardless of what you're selling, like the person at the other end knows if you sell something, like, the end goal is to get you to buy something, but how can you nurture that relationship so they feel good about it and they want to buy from you? Yeah,
exactly.
What did you say?
I said, not full taken advantage of, like, oh, she's just after my money. I'm like, no, I'm after your heart and your money.
Right. And your money, honey, because that's what business is. We know, like, I'm not stupid. I know that when I see that ad, like they want me to buy. But it's the small companies or the clothing shops that I see on Instagram, and they're connecting with their audience. And, so regardless of what you're selling, I love buying from the companies that are connecting, that are, caring about their audience and being authentic, for sure. So like just building the brand in that way. I love it.
Because if people can make me buy a $10 anklet because it helps save the whales, then I can make sure that people can feel like they're supporting the cause too. So it's all about, I'm not a liar. Like, I'm not like, oh, you're going to do this and this and this, but I make sure to sell myself in a way that it comes off as profitable to them and they see a cause. Like for me, my cause is I want to prove that women know sports, and I want to break the barrier for women. And so when you get people not only seeing how they're going to make money, but you also, and not just believing in you, but you also see them, okay, like I'm going to be a part of something. People want to be a part of something. People want to feel like they're changing the world. They're having an impact. And so when you have people come together with a same goal and common ground, then that's when the magic happens. Because I can get sponsors all day long who are helping me with my podcast, but I want people and sponsors who see a vision, that see this 5-10 years down the road, and they're like, yeah, we were a part of something small in the beginning that grew to something big. You want people to see the bigger picture, not just not just the immediate impact, but what it can happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And do you feel like being a woman in sports, because there's not a lot of women in sports, that gives you...
There are a lot of women. There are not a lot of knowledgeable women. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I'll call them out. I can't stand the TV because, when I was in college, like, oh, do you want to be Erin Andrews? I'm like, no, I want to be Hannah Stevens, because Erin Andrews is on the sideline with a script. Are there some things she does? Yeah, she's smart. Don't get me wrong. But I wanted to prove that women can be more than just, like, I want to be ESPN. Like, like, I used to want to be ESPN's first college football analyst on college game day. I don't want to be the one to say, hey, guys, what do you think about this? I want them to say, hey, Hannah, what do you think about this? And I break down the game. I don't want to just bring up the topic. I want to break it down, because women know X's and O's too. And I get all the time, well, you didn't play football. I'm like, well, what position do you think Paul Feinbaum played? Homeboy never played a day in his life. So don't tell me because I'm a woman and I didn't play football that I'm not knowledgeable, because my dad was a football coach. I grew up going to football games. Between Florida State, Alabama games, I spent more time on Saturday going to those games than I did playing sports myself, like soccer. Mm-hmm. So when you're surrounded by that, there's a man out there. When you're surrounded by, people with the same concept, the same goal as you, then that's what I've realized. So like, I want to just prove that women do know sports. And so that's kind of my goal. Like when I meet with people or when I have a conversation on a podcast, it's more than just me. It's like me doing this is more than just Hannah Stevens doing well. It's I'm doing this so 15 years down the road, young women and females in America and in the world have not the same stigma as we do today that, oh, women don't know sports. Because let me tell you something, they do.
I do
I'll
not.
step up my high horse now.
I'm like, I do not know sports, but that's okay. I don't need to know sports.
Yeah,
That's not my thing.
you don't.
And
that's like, yeah.
but I love that. I mean, still, even though, okay, yes, there's a lot of women in sports, and now I'm thinking about, like, yes, I see a lot of women in sports on TV, but they're not in sports the way that you're in sports.
Exactly.
And so that sets you apart from everyone else out there. And so you have that to your advantage, maybe disadvantage because people don't recognize or, think women know sports, but you're going to prove them wrong. But you have that advantage of, hey, I'm in this spot, this niche of sports, and being able to talk about sports in a different way that any other woman that's doing it now can talk about it. Or, there are a lot of women that can talk about it, but they don't want to, and you want to talk about it, So I think you do have kind of this special place that you can use to your advantage to kind of get in and be on shows and things like that. And so using that to your advantage for sure to get your name out there and get your face out there and say yes to every opportunity. So I love that. And hopefully the audience can then think about, what is their special place? What do they have? They can bring value and add value that Susie, Sally, Keisha can't.
Yeah. I like that.
Use Susie and Sally a lot on here, and I have reference to Keisha, so you can throw any other names that you want.
Yeah. Larry,
for
Bob. I'll throw all the VeggieTales guy. I don't know why all of a sudden they're in my head. But yeah, I mean, it's just so important that people realize that they have something to offer, that you have value in your business and your, whether it's network marketing or even if you're an entrepreneur in another way in life, whether it's starting a podcast, whether it's starting a business, like what is your value? What, not only we talked about this before the show, your niche, like what's your niche, but even more than that, like what can you bring to the table? And I think when people really start to realize that, then they see their worth and that gives them confidence. Because if I go into a meeting, like not very confident, like, yeah, I'm Hannah Stevens and I have a sports podcast. So like, I don't want to help you. You don't have any confidence. I'm like, yeah, my name's Hannah. I have this legit podcast. I'm on a mission. And that's how I've expanded my network, is like not only reaching out to people, but like connecting on social media is huge. And I think Twitter is very underestimated. Like people love Instagram and Facebook, but Twitter's legit because you have DMs, you have ways to connect with people, and a lot of professional athletes use Twitter. But it's also very easy compared to Instagram and Facebook with even getting stuff trending. And so it's just fun to use different social media. But Twitter's probably my main way that I've, in the last year, since starting my podcast, I've reached out to people, whether it's athletes on my show, whether it's coaches, whether it's breaking news, whether it's making things go viral. It's just using social media even to really expand your network, to reach out to people that I ultimately wouldn't have had opportunity to reach out with, that are in Indonesia or in Cambodia, wherever it may be, that I'm like, you know what, like Coco Gauff, the young up-and-coming tennis star that's all over the news right now. It's like, have a connected with her. I tweeted at her and asked her to follow me on Twitter, and then we conversed in DMs. That's how you do stuff like that, And so it's kind of opening up your eyes to, how can I make this work? Someone says no, keep figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Twitter, I don't use Twitter now. I think when you sold me on Twitter, I'm going to have to start using Twitter now. But Twitter, how I think
it connects to your podcast, by the way, too.
You can what?
You sync it to your podcast. I'm actually publish your podcast. That's how you get a lot of views on Twitter too. Because people on Twitter are always scrolling and searching. So it's a good avenue for you.
So we're going to have to get on Twitter here. Next, Badass is the New Black on Twitter.
Yeah. You could do BATB.
All right, perfect.
I guess you do BAITB, but that could be your Twitter handle.
Bad.
BAITB at BAITB.
All right.
There you go.
Hannah's going to hook it up. Hannah's going to get me on
I got
Twitter.
you.
But Twitter is not just one-liner statements anymore. Yep. Like you can do, and I don't know that much, you can tell me, but you can post pictures?
Yeah.
What?
Videos, pictures. You
Yeah.
can go live. You can broadcast live on Twitter. So it all started, of course, with a Periscope a while ago. A few years ago, Periscope was a
Mm-hmm.
cool, like, live broadcasting technology. But Twitter's kind of bought into that and kind of taken that into themselves. And so Twitter's kind of become Facebook and Instagram in one. So obviously you have hashtags. Obviously you have a way to follow people and converse. But even more than that, it's really a community, and it's really a network that I've used to garner fan base. So with football, that's kind of how I've garnered a lot of attention, is things I tweet during games and kind of get that attention and prove that women know sports. Like I tweeted a tweet last week because I'm sitting there crunching numbers about the Alabama-Tennessee game, and I tweeted a statistic, and people loved it. They had no idea. And they're like, how did you figure that out? I'm like, I did the work myself. Like, I sat there for 30 minutes and did all these numbers about the first down, since the history of Alabama and Tennessee have been going, since this is like the 102nd time matching. It was a bunch of random numbers, and people were like obsessed. So it's like, you just have to find different avenues, I call them, to not only get attention, but provide content, provide credibility. And when you prove yourself credible, people are going to be willing to buy into your goal, your mission, and who you are. Because if I say, yeah, I'm a college tool analyst, they're going to be like, okay, cool. But if I'm proving that consistently over time on different platforms, you're like, dude, she knows her stuff. Like, she's credible. Like, she knows the X's and O's.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's super important to be honest and really be yourself, because you're not going to be able to show your value in a way if you're just trying to be like someone else and do it like someone else. So like, again, going back to like, your strong shooty suit, your strong suit. You love sports. You like eat, breathe, and poop sports. Like
literally.
And that's like what you're talking about. And you're building a brand and a business around you and what you love and your passions. And so it's making it easy for you to show your credibility. And so that, again, is like another reason why you have to be honest. You have to be authentic. You have to stick true to who you are, what you love, what you're passionate about, and all your strengths, so that this all just comes easy. You're just doing your thing. And then you're finding out these tools and tricks to connect with people. Tag them on things, tag them in your stories, do all this and that, send them messages, connect and communicate with them. And that builds a network. And I've been hearing a lot of people's stories lately of, oh my gosh, I mentioned someone who has like a huge following in my stories, and then they messaged me back, and I had the same experience. They're like, do you think it was really them messaging me back? And I go, yeah, it probably was, actually. I mean, they probably have people doing a lot of things for them, but it probably was them messaging back, because that's how they grew that following. They connected with their audience. And that's part of the piece, that I love and I don't want to give up, is writing my own content so that it shows up in my voice, and communicating and connecting with the audience, because that's what I love. So I don't think I'll ever give that up. I gave it up for like 2 posts. My VA typed something up kind of in my voice, and then she sent it to me, and I tweaked it, and then we did it. And then I was like, it just doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't feel like what's on my heart and my mind today. This is what I want to say. So I said, I'm going to take back over content and obviously still always communicating. But yeah, those large accounts, I mean, I believe that it's the actual person connecting with them.
No, I agree. I think that's important when you're trying to build your network, is that you are the person behind the screen. Because like you said, like, people want relationship. And so I've tried to garner that on different social media, like trying to figure out the algorithm. So when I post on Instagram, like, I try to immediately respond to comments. I try to respond to my DMs, especially on Twitter too. I try to engage with people who comment, because if people take the time to comment, they want to feel heard. They want to feel appreciated. And a simple heart on Facebook, when you heart their comment, a simple thank you on Twitter, and a heart or a like their response on Instagram, like, that just makes people feel validated. And that's what people are after. And honestly, we're in such a weird time in our life, or when we were kids, we didn't have social media. Like, we just saw people at school, all the things. And now people feel fulfilled, and they feel like they're a part of a family. Like, some people consider me to be their friends, and I've literally never met them in their life. And that's the beauty about social media, is you have friends from all over the world you've never actually seen face to face. You know, you may have seen them on a screen, FaceTime, but you've never met them. You've never hugged them. And so I think that's the beauty of social media, is having a network and a group, a fan base, friends, whatever you want to call them, that you're engaged with consistently, and that you're not only benefiting from, but you're also helping them as well. And so I think when you have all those together, it's a very beautiful thing that, you know, can really change lives and change businesses and, you know, build your network.
Let's take a quick break and talk about one of my favorite platforms. You've heard me talk about it a lot. It's Kajabi, or as my husband refers to it as Punjabi. Babe, it starts with a K. Kajabi. This is literally the platform that made my business a success, because without it, I wouldn't have one. I am literally the least techie person you will ever meet. When I think about websites and landing pages and funnels and pipelines and CRM systems and having to go to all these different sites and then merge them together, my head spun like crazy, too much overwhelm. And so I just didn't do anything. Then found Kajabi, and it was a place where I could do everything that I needed to do to run my business professionally and successfully, all in one place. So you can host your website through there. Plug and play, you guys. If you know how to drag and drop a picture and text in a designated box, you can build your own website. No coding necessary. If you need a landing page, which you do, by the way, to collect those emails from your audience, you have landing pages you can use. CRM system, hello, funnels, pipelines, emails galore. It's all built in. There's even a place for community. So if you have an audience or customers that are not on social media and you want to connect with them, communicate, send them videos, chat with one another as a group or individually, you can use the community section. I highly, highly recommend this. It's super affordable. If you want to take your business to the next level, you need to run it like a business, and you need the website, the landing pages, the CRM system to do that. I am offering you a free month, no strings attached. Go to my website, thechrissychin.com/Kajabi, Kajabi, again, Kajabi, so that you can click on the link for your free 28-day trial. Do me a favor, once you're done creating something, your website, maybe a landing page, send me the link into my DM so I can click on it and see what you have created. I can't wait to see what you come up with and to see your business boom with success. Let's make it happen. Welcome back to Badass is the New Black. Let's get back to it with Hannah Stevens. Love it. So what are some of the things that you do on a regular basis to make sure that you're constantly growing your network and connecting with other people that are going to be beneficial for you? So they're obviously in your same arena.
Yeah. Definitely, like, I do a lot of research. So I'm always trying to be like, okay, what's the new thing? Like, what are people doing now? So obviously TikTok's something that's pretty popular. I don't really do TikTok, but, you know, like, I look into stuff and say, okay, like, how can I use that? I remember, what was it called? Vine. Vine was really popular when I was in college. And, so I would Vine during college, like funny videos or at Alabama football games, and, try to just, you know, gain attention that way. But even more so now, like, what I do consistently on Twitter, always in the trending topics. I'm always in the trending. I'm always trying to tweet about a trending topic, whether or not I try not to do politics because I just don't like politics, but whether or not it's something like, yesterday, of course, in Alabama last night, if you know, heard, but that sweet little 3-year-old girl, Camille McKinney, she was, found, dead. And that's something that was trending in Alabama because so many people were talking about it for so long because it's like a horrible situation. And so obviously I didn't comment on that because I'm never going to comment on a very tender topic unless it's supportive, you know. But like, for example, on Saturdays, I'm always talking about trending topics, whether it's football, whether it's like someone in the Heisman race, or whether it's someone on a Monday afternoon talking about Monday Night Football. I'm always in that consistently. On Instagram, I'm always connecting with people, especially in the CrossFit world too. I'm always like, hey, is there any chance I can get you my podcast? So I'm constantly reaching out to people on Twitter and Instagram all the time. And you'll be surprised. You'll honestly be surprised when you word it. Don't just say, and this is something I've learned, I don't just say, hey, would you love to come on my podcast? I'd love to have you. You know how many offers they get a day with people coming on their podcast? No, I've had to word it. Hey, my name's Hannah. I have a sports podcast. I'm trying to focus on other areas of sports beyond football. I'm trying to make CrossFit a more understood sport, why it's so beneficial. And I know that you have an amazing story. I followed you for years. I didn't know if you'd be willing to come on my podcast. I'm willing to promote any brand that sponsors you. And I would love for people to kind of understand CrossFit more and understand your story. When you word it like that, they feel empowered. They feel like, okay, she has something to offer, rather than saying, then, because if you word it the first way, they feel like they're benefiting you, that they're giving everything they have to you. If you word it the second way, you're making yourself come off as someone who has a following that's going to benefit them. And so that's what I've had to do consistently over time. And I don't think I've actually gotten to know yet. I think everyone I've asked has been like, for sure. And so it's just about being consistent. And you know, whether it's your network marketing business, and you have to be present, you have to be consistent. You know, like whether it's being a product of the product and using your products, you know, consistently for people to see a difference. Whether it's, you know, you showing up when you say you're going to show up, whether it's on Facebook Live, whether it's doing your podcast regularly, whether it's whatever it may be. People want to know that you're committed. And when they see you're committed and they see you have a mission and a goal, then they're going to be willing to jump on board, whether or not that's from a financial perspective and sponsoring, or whether that's just being a content, like being on your podcast. And so I think that's what's important. And also, I'm all about just being supportive and encouraging. So, I mean, for me, it's like if a girl came to me and said, hey, I have a sports podcast, I'd be like, absolutely, let's build that, because more power to you. Let's get more women in this industry and let's make a sisterhood out of this, right? Like, you know, I think it's awesome to have people working together with the same goal. You know, because there's a girl I know that has a gymnastics podcast. That's all her focus. She was a world champion gymnast. My podcast is more so geared towards college football right now. But anyway, it's just about being consistent. I think that was a long-winded answer, sorry, but being consistent on different platforms, but also like using the different platforms for their use, like Twitter more so for DMs, Instagram for content, little video blurs, reach out to people, and then Facebook, of course, is honestly, I just think that's like a big way to publicize stuff. So articles, I don't know, it's just they all have their different uses, but they're all powerful in each and every way.
So kind of tapping into the different, and I love the collaboration over competition came to mind. So awesome. Thinking about like, how can we collaborate together? So like, yes, it's going to be beneficial for me because you're going to come share your expertise, but you know, I want to collaborate. I want to work together. And we just did another podcast on collaboration too. But how can I serve you and your people as well? And then they're more likely to share with their audience. And that's how you build an audience a lot quicker. I want to go back to Twitter because now I have a few questions about Twitter.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So Twitter with trending, because I know that is a really great way to get your name in there because everyone else is looking at that topic. Is there just like, hey, this is everything that's trending, or can you break it up by topics and do like what's trending in business?
So right now, if I went to Twitter, this is of course October 23rd. So you can see that. Right now what's trending in the world news is police find 35 bodies in a container in Essex, right? That's like
that sounds super positive.
Yes, right. But then that says for you, then they have different categories. So trending, another one, depending on an area. So you can set it for your location, like the biggest city near you. There's also news. So trending news, right? You know, they're talking about obviously politics, so we'll move past that. And then there's sports, there's fun, there's entertainment, there's a bunch of different ones. So David Ross is set to become the new Cubs manager, okay? That's trending right now. So I could comment on that and say, sometimes it's something easy as a poll, letting other people feel like their voice is heard. Sometimes it's me giving my opinion. Sometimes it's me being snarky, saying something sarcastic to get people fired up just for fun. So when you go to Twitter, it's a playground. That's kind of how I see it. You can jump up and hang from the monkey bars for attention. You can swing it with other people. You can go down the slide. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with Twitter. And so for me, I'm constantly like, that's just my favorite platform, honestly, is constantly on Twitter, seeing what's going on, what can I converse about. And that's how you meet other people. Because there have been people I follow on Twitter now who I didn't know until I tweeted about a trending topic. And then we conversed about it. I'm like, you live in Alabama? I had no idea. Oh, what? You love sports? Okay, let's be friends. So it's a way for you to not only get yourself out there, but also meet new people and broaden your network.
Love it. Love it. My marketing guy for one of the businesses was like, Twitter is very forgiving. He's like, you can tweet something and like 24 hours, like nobody remembers.
They moved on. But you do have to protect what you say, because I think that's important too, is I never want to come off as a hurtful. Like, I've never ever been someone that's tweeted something that I've ever regretted, because I'm very careful. I think before I tweet. People say think before you talk. I always say think before you tweet, because whether or not people think you can delete it, it's always on the internet, because someone's going to screenshot it. Someone's going to say, I mean, how many times have we heard things happen on news that, oh my word, so-and-so said something racist in 2004.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
they took a picture back in,
Yes, they took a picture when they were in high school. I mean, like, I think people are forgiving, Twitter's forgiving, but I think people don't forget. And so it's, you have to monitor what you say, because there are times where I've really wanted to say something and I thought about, like, you know what, that may not come off. I mean it funny. People may not think it's funny, and it may hurt it may hurt my image. And so I think you have to be careful what you put on social media, but it's such a beautiful thing. It's kind of a blessing and a curse, because like, you're always consumed with it in a way, but at the same time, it's a free platform to build your business. And so that's why I see social media, as in Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They're free, and they're so beneficial and crucial when building a business, especially now you have the business side of Instagram, and you can make a business page. I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's just so cool to think that I know so many people who I've never met that I'm friends with, that I would go to their weddings today, but I've never met them,
Yeah. No, I love it. And of course, it's like in my mind, I'm like, oh, one more social media thing to learn and master. And it's like, you don't have to start with, if you're just starting on social media and going to start building your brand on social media to network and broaden your network, you don't have to start on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and all the like, pick one, pick something, pick where your audience hangs out the most, do a little bit of research on that. And then once you get comfortable, then figure out how you can use another platform. And I do a lot of, I always use like a specific term, and now I totally can't think of it, but maybe you can help me, where I like the podcast. I'm recording the podcast. I'm going to pull the audio. I'm going to put it on the podcast, and then I'm going to use the video, and I'm going to put it on YouTube. What do we call that? I feel so stupid right now.
I don't know.
Repurposing.
I was going to say
repurposing.
Oh, repurposing. I thought you meant like a hub that you put it on. I was like,
no. Okay. Brain fart over here. Repurposing. So you repurpose the content. You don't have to come up with like a million unique things to like have everything be different. It can be the same, or you can tweak it a little, to tweet it a little. So, okay. Social media to broaden the network. What about, like locally? How do you broaden your network locally? Not on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, like I live in a pretty small town in Alabama, so it's kind of just, I mean, as simple as it sounds, like this is like the most random idea. I mean, dumb idea, but in sports, I have friends that their sons and daughters play high school sports, so I try to keep up with them in the local sports and say, oh, like, I saw that your son beat West Morgan 34-5 or 34-6 it was. How excited were they? And for them to be like, wow, like you took the time to know that really means a lot to people. But also like even locally, like some of my sponsors are mom and pop shops. And for me, it's like using social media, teaching them, like there's a pawn shop that sponsors my podcast that I literally showed them how to use Facebook and how to do, Facebook ads. And, like, he was blown away that I could do it by age group, by female or male, by a radius on this map, and showing them. So for me, it's like being present in the moment. But I definitely don't want to
have a new runner here for
president. No, definitely not. No, don't fill me in. Don't write my name in. And it's about connecting with each group. So on social media, it's a lot easier, I think, to connect with people on social media than it is face to face, right? For me, not so much, because I love people, but I find that there are people who would rather look at their screen all day and hang out with their friends virtually than have a face to face conversation. I think that people have forgotten how important face to face conversation is. So when we remember that and we treat people like they're human beings, and we say, hey, like, how are you? Or, hey, like, let's go to dinner and let's share ideas. Because I've realized that there are some local businesses where I live that don't know the skill sets I know. Like, they don't know how to use social media. They don't know how to make a website. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll tell you what. You help promote my podcast by sponsoring my podcast. I'll come meet with you once a month for a few hours, and we'll sit down and we'll make you a new website. We'll get you some Facebook ads. We'll get you some ideas on Twitter. We'll get you some sponsored content on Google that can help drive you in revenue. So it's about finding each and every person's niche and desire. But locally, I think it's a lot easier because you have these people face to face, and they see you, and they know that you're consistent. And it's sometimes it's about building relationships. Like, it's like, oh, Hannah is an awesome person. Like, I would love to work with her, rather than, yeah, that Hannah girl, she's dying for my money, right? Like, it's about building a relationship and cultivating that and building upon, because we do that on social media all the time with network marketing. We're always reaching out to people, but what do we always tell ourselves? It's about a relationship. Same thing in person. People want to know that we care about them as a person more than just their checkbook. And so locally, it's different, I guess, for me than some, but I think the idea of meeting in person, the idea of being consistent, the idea of doing your local research, like what's going on, like, can you get involved in the community, and just being a part of the community, being a recognizable face in your own local community, I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always groups that you can find, people that meet up and do things. So knowing where your niche is and what kind of people you're looking for, then once you know that, you can go out and find those groups of people. Maybe you're into knitting and that's your thing, and you sell a product that supports people as, knitters, whatever it is, shakes, squills, all the things, jewelry, maybe they, want something special. But that's your niche, is building like a knitting community. To attract more people. Like, that's your special thing. That's the thing that you love. That's the thing you're passionate about. That's the thing you know how to talk about to get your foot in the door in that relationship, per se. So then you go and you try and find some local knitting community to connect with people in your niche. Or, for me, it's entrepreneurial. Like, I eat, breathe, sleep, poop, business stuff. So it's like, I want to find the business groups, the entrepreneurial groups that are meeting, having meetups, lunches, talks, or whatever.
You should do sip and shares.
Do what?
Like, you should do local meetups, sip and shares, like coffee or wine or something, where you get together in a group of women and entrepreneurs and kind of feed off each other. I think that'd be awesome. Like a little accountability group.
Yeah. There are groups here in Atlanta that I haven't been to.
Got a huge area.
And I've totally found them on Instagram. There's certainly groups. So, I haven't attended one yet, but it's on my list of like things to do, put it in the calendar. But certainly that's, locally, if you're trying to broaden your network, finding those meetup groups. And if there isn't one, start one.
Yeah, exactly.
Start a meetup.
And then publicize it and, get the attention on social media. Like you said, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, saying, hey, we're going to have a meetup. Any women interested in sports broadcasting, come to Starbucks on, October 27th, and we'll have coffee and talk about sports, like whatever it may be. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And maybe no one's going to show up the first time. That's okay. Hey, consistency is key. When people see it happening over and over and over again, then they start to trust that and know, okay, it's happening. I couldn't make it this time, but it's happening again. And I'm going to go. As opposed to like setting it up and being like, oh my God, nobody showed up, or one person
never do this again.
I suck. The worst. Nobody loves me. Don't go there.
Don't do that. Don't go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, this was awesome. Loved it. I think we got some good nuggets. I think she's laughing. No, we
Yeah, I just
totally
like
got
how
some
you said good nuggets. I just like that word. Like people use, I just laugh all the time. People say, "Got some good nuggets." I'm just laughing because I automatically think of Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets. That's why.
Ooh, Chick-fil-A. It's a little past lunchtime, but I better go get some Chick-fil-A. This is the most random thought ever, but my husband and I
Uh-huh.
were having this conversation. I think we're into the after show now.
Uh-huh.
We might edit this out, maybe not. Who knows? It might stay. Maybe it'll be the intro. But Michael
Maybe
and
it's
I were
just might be
talking
funny.
about Chick-fil-A and business, and I said,
Okay.
I wonder how much money Chick-fil-A loses by being closed on Sunday. And his thought was, I wonder how much money Chick-fil-A makes by being closed on
Being closed on
Sunday.
Sunday.
And
They
so we
make
were
a lot.
having this debate and
You used to
thought
work
on
there.
if because they're closed one day a week, if they make more money, if it wouldn't make
Mhm.
a difference at all, or if they make less money. So if anybody knows the CEO of
Well,
Chick-fil-A,
I think they would probably, I mean, I know that a lot more people came on Saturday because they know they couldn't come on Sunday when I worked there. But I also know that you're saving money by not having the business open because you're not having to pay fees, like the power's off, like you're saving money, like, you know, you're not having to make all that food. And Chick-fil-A is fresh every day. Like when I worked there, we got loads of chicken every day that we had to fry. And so it just saves a lot of expense, but also it's kind of their, I wouldn't say their niche, but their platform. Like they believe in being closed on Sundays. And I think when you have them being closed consistently, it kind of makes people want to, I mean, I know on Saturday nights, I'm like, oh, I'm craving Chick-fil-A. I need to go because I'm going to get it tomorrow. Like I know it's a thing, Saturday FOMO for Chick-fil-A. And so, yeah, that's a good question though. I mean, I would love to, yeah, someone should research that. I think they would probably make more money.
I think make more money too. Like after
Yeah.
thinking about it and all of the things, and that's that scarcity mindset, and it works in business really well.
Yes.
So like we'll tie this into business, how you can apply this to your business, but that scarcity mindset of Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
is going to be closed on Sunday, like it's the weekend, it's my splurge day, like got to get in there.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, oh, everything's open, and so then you pick something else
Exactly.
because you know everything else is always available and open.
Yeah.
So
We'll
I
just go to
think
Zaxby's tonight.
you what? You're gonna have Zach's
I said, we'll just go to Zaxby's tonight.
Yeah, totally. I just said
Not the same.
Zaxby's for the very first time. Like within the last
Underwhelmed or overwhelmed? I'm about to, I mean,
mediocre.
Chick-fil-A.
Actually,
Chick-fil-A
I
is
was
always
very
number one in my heart.
underwhelmed because I got a salad because I'm trying to not eat gluten right now, so I couldn't really enjoy the chicken. But it looked good. I had to break it apart I got little kids. So they're like, Mom, it's hot. Sopla, sopla is speaking Spanish sometimes to me. And so I had to break it apart and like, it looks like real chicken. So that's a plus. That's a plus. Cool. Okay. Well,
Sounds good.
Stop going on and on about chicken. No. Okay. I do have, you want to do some Spitfire questions?
Yes. Let's do some Spitfire questions.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so you just have to answer as fast as possible.
As fast as possible. Okay.
Hot dog or sandwich?
Sandwich.
How do you feel about putting pineapple on pizza?
Absolutely not.
I agree. What kind of secret society would you like to start?
A sports secret society. I don't know.
Love it. Perfect.
Underwater basket weaving.
Underwater basket weaving. Amazing. Toilet paper, over or under?
Over. What?
Yeah.
Oh, how I thought you meant underwhelmed or overwhelmed.
Toilet paper.
Under.
Under.
Yes, because the kids move it anyway, so I might as well keep it under.
Oh, okay. Under. I'm an over girl.
Well,
I will say having a child over when they do the whole like cat pawing at it, it just unravels. Yeah. So I feel like when you have little kids, you kind of got to switch to the under. What is the worst smell you've ever smelled?
The Decatur sanitation plant where they basically filter out the poop from the water. Yep, that's it.
Which body part do you wish you could detach and why?
Toes.
Why?
Toes creep me out. I don't know. I mean, I know you need them because they're important in walking, but like they're just gross. Like feet are just gross.
All right. What last one? What's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone else's home?
Oh, the weirdest thing I've seen. Oh, I had to think about this for a second. This must be rapid fire. The weirdest thing I've seen. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Yeah, give me.
All right. Well, let's do a different one.
Fire.
If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called?
Nutter spread.
Nutter spread. Love it. Sticky, weird brown stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Not poop.
I love it. I love it. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
You guys can hop over to the show notes and you can see Hannah, click on all of her things, check out her podcast. If you're totally into sports, you're going to love it. Find her on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast or on YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching. Rate and review for me.
Do it.
That would be awesome. And if you guys have questions for us, send us questions, send them to into our DMs, and we will get those answered for you. This was great. Thank you so much.
Yes, always a pleasure. I love chatting with you. It's so much fun. I always love it.
Bye.
See ya.